Hello and welcome to a new vlog and video in cooperation with ReiseJung. We're taking a look at the first 2 days of the second cruise with a beautiful Swiss crown. This is a very special cruise. In German it's called a Genussreise, Genusskreuzfahrt, which could be translated to enjoyment cruise. It is a cruise that focuses on good food, good entertainment and the enjoyment of life, and it will bring us to the Rhine and the Mosel. In the first video we are going from the ReiseJung homeport of Hanau down the River Main, past Frankfurt to the Rhine. Then we're sailing the Rhine downstream and our first stop is Winningen and the second stop is in Cochem. This cruise started with a surprise for us because the shipping company informed us on a very short notice of a change of itinerary, and for us it is natural to inform our guests, which is not happening with all cruise companies, but we informed our guests about the change of itinerary and we were very happy that almost all guests decided to still join the cruise. So we're now starting on a very nice cruise, and I can tell you that it's gonna be a very nice cruise. We're leaving the port of Hanau during beautiful weather, turning around at the entrance of the port, heading for the low bridges of Hanau, and then continuing on past the castle Philippsruhe to Frankfurt and then onto the River Rhine. Here you can see why so many ships have 3 decks in the back and 2 decks in the front, so the front part can remain open while passing those low bridges, while the rear part just has a few centimeters of clearance to the bridges and of course has to remain closed. So here you can quite clearly see why river ships are built like this. After that we are sailing past the castle Philippsruhe and then we are already reaching the first lock of our cruise, the lock of Mülheim. Here we are approaching the lock and then we are sailing on to Frankfurt. Later on in the evening we're sailing past Offenbach and then we are approaching Frankfurt. It is always very spectacular to sail past Frankfurt due to the skyline of the city. As you can see, there are many skyscrapers. For us it's still beautiful to see, even though many of our cruises are starting in Hanau and we have seen it countless times. It's always spectacular to sail past Frankfurt, and it's also always the first highlight of the cruise for our guests, so a lot of guests were up on the sun deck to see the ship sailing past Frankfurt. After this spectacular moment, it was time for the first dinner on board, and as you can see the food looks amazing, and that is because on an enjoyment cruise, of course, there's a higher focus on the food as well. It is even better than on a regular cruise. There was even a corporate chef on board of the shipping company Skilla, making sure that the food is perfect. But enjoyment does not only mean good food, it also means to relax and enjoy beautiful landscape, and that's what we did in the evening after dinner. We went up to the sun deck, which was in the meantime completely open. Also the higher rear part was open, and there was a beautiful sunset, so it was a very nice evening on the River Main, enjoying the beautiful scenery. The weather was also amazing, so it was a fantastic first evening on board. Here we are leaving the River Main, we are reaching the River Rhine, close to the city of Mainz, which we can see in the background. Now we are sailing downstream on the Rhine, past the castle Biebrich in Wiesbaden, and then it was time to go to sleep. Next morning I woke up quite early and we were already on the River Mosel. As you can see, it still looks pretty grey, but that was not due to bad weather, that was due to fog. There was pretty thick fog this morning when I took the first look out of the window, but I decided to go back to sleep again. And when I then finally woke up, we were already docked in Winningen, our first destination. Winningen is a small village very typical for the River Mosel. Not too many cruise ships are docking there, but it was the perfect first stop for us, as we used the maximum sailing time that we can have with 2 captains to reach Winningen. We couldn't sail any further, so it was a perfect stop. Winningen is very typical for the River Mosel. We have these typical white houses, half-timbered houses, houses built out of slate, so it is very typical for the Mosel. And what's also very typical for the Mosel and for enjoyment is of course drinking wine. So our first excursion was a wine tasting at the Weingut Richter here in Winningen, and we enjoyed a tour through the wine cellars of this company, and of course we could try several of their very nice and good wines. And after this fantastic wine tasting, we explored a bit more of the beautiful town of Winningen. It was also voted one of the most beautiful villages in Germany, and I think you can clearly see why. It is a very typical, as I said, for this region, for the River Mosel, and in general just a very beautiful village. Of course you cannot spend a whole day there, as it is a village, so it's not too big. So we are now sailing on after lunch, heading in the direction of Cochem, which will be our next destination. To get there, we're sailing under the Mosel Valley Bridge. This is the 3rd highest bridge in Germany with an altitude of 136 meters. The highway Autobahn A61 is crossing the Mosel Valley here on this impressive bridge. After that we are sailing past Kobern-Gondorf. Also there we can see some impressive buildings, some castles. The most spectacular castle is the Castle von der Leyen, which we can see here. There have been 2 massive changes to this castle. The first one was in 1876 when the railway line was built. To construct the railway line, the castle was separated into 2 parts, and the second change was even bigger. In 1971 a road was built on the bank of the River Mosel, and this road is going right through the castle, as you can see here, so that is also very spectacular and unique. Shortly after the castle we are reaching the lock Lehmann, the second lock on the River Mosel. The first one was in Koblenz back in the night. And shortly after leaving the lock of Lehmann, there's this spectacular moment when we are approaching the village of Alken, as there is one short moment when the Castle Turand is appearing behind a rock. It's always looking pretty spectacular. It's also a very nice castle and a beautiful, charming village, which we have also visited on our Mosel cruise last year. After Alken we're then sailing past the Castle Bischofstein, then we're reaching the lock of Müden and sailing past Dreiskaden before reaching our evening destination of Cochem. On the way it was time for another fantastic dinner on board. As you can see, also the second dinner looks amazing, also the taste was perfect, even better than the already very good food on the first cruise, so it was very nice and we were always looking forward to the mealtimes on board. In the evening we were then docking in Cochem, staying there overnight together with a few other ships, and some of our guests had another wine tasting at Hieronymi, and many other guests were heading into the city center, which is extremely beautiful. It's also already beautiful to cross the bridge over the River Mosel, as you can see the river cruise ships, and especially you can see the old town and the castle Reichsburg. There was even a party, a wine party, which is very traditional in Germany. In the wine regions there are the so-called Weinfests, wine celebrations or wine parties. So a lot of our guests were also joining the party there, listening to some live music. And then back on board it was also spectacular, because from the sun deck there was a very beautiful view of a nice sunset And even better, there was not only a sunset but also a rainbow at the same time, so that was a very beautiful and spectacular sight. But it's still not it for this day. There was still some more program, because another part of enjoyment next to good food, good wine, beautiful landscape can also be good whiskey, and that's why we had a whiskey tasting on board. Renato Steglich was visiting us and presenting several different types of whiskey, explaining a bit more about the different tastes and the different styles of whiskey. So that was also a very interesting program that we really enjoyed. But after this, it was finally time to go to sleep, as there is a lot more to come in the next days. Here you can see when the next video with the next 2 days will be uploaded and the name of the song. As always, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to comment, like, subscribe or share the video link. Hope to see you in my next video, or maybe one day on board. You can find some more information about the ReiseJung cruises on reisejung.de.